Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Ducati has taken a surprising strategic turn. For 2026, the Borgo Panigale factory plans to equip all 6 of its MotoGP riders with the same machine, the Desmosedici GP25. It's a bold move that aims to close internal gaps, save development costs, and concentrate resources on the big regulatory reset in 2027. Here's what the decision means: on track, in the garage, and across the championship. Marc Márquez's 2025 campaign reads like a steamroller. The Ducati star sits on 381 points, 120 clear of teammate Álex Márquez, 261, and the numbers suggest a premature coronation is mathematically possible. GPOne's calculations, and the season's brutal consistency from number 93, have even produced a scenario where Marquez could lift the championship trophy as early as Misano. Here's how that eye-watering possibility stacks up and why it still feels unlikely, but not impossible. Pecco Bagnaia has sounded a blunt alarm about his 2025 campaign. The Desmosedici GP25's behavior under braking has flipped one of his strongest assets, racecraft at the front, into a weakness. The two-time world champion told Sky Italia that persistent corner entry and braking issues are costing him places and confidence on track, and that solving the problem has become Ducati's top priority. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. This season Ducati ran slightly different specifications. Marc Márquez, Pecco Bagnaia and Fabio Di Giannantonio received a more aggressive engine spec, while Álex Márquez, Fermin Aldeguer and Franco Morbidelli used a conservative package. The split produced measurable performance gaps, enough for Ducati to rethink its approach. Davide Tardozzi, paraphrase. The brand manager admitted the original plan to homogenize engines was rushed, but the racing reality forced a rapid rethink. Motorsport reported Ducati will now standardize the GP25 across the whole stable. 2 strategic drivers: performance parity and cost efficiency. With Ducati winning the majority of races this year, the factory wants every rider to start from the same baseline, reducing internal friction and making data comparisons cleaner. Economically, halting GP26 development and producing more GP25s spreads manufacturing costs over 2 seasons, freeing budget for the big technical leap expected under the 2027 regulations. Ducati also argued that fewer bikes on track this year meant less overall telemetry and fewer experimental runs. By standardizing and concentrating on 6 identical GP25s, engineers expect better, more consistent datasets, critical when preparing for a rule change era. In short, less variance equals clearer signals from the riders, which should accelerate development where it matters. The headline beneficiary is Marc Márquez. His immediate compatibility with the GP25 has been a defining feature of the season, and a uniform grid removes the previous model reference for rivals. With everyone riding the same spec, Márquez's benchmark could become even more authoritative. Leveling of the playing field. Riders who ran conservative specs, Álex Márquez and Aldeguer, will gain access to the full GP25, rewarding their performances and contract leverage. There are trade-offs. Riders used to bespoke tweaks might lose a bespoke edge. For Bagnaia and Bagnaia, who adjusted to their upgraded spec this season, the change could feel like a reset. Internally, the team must manage expectations. One bike reduces excuses but increases pressure on setup and rider adaptation. From a sporting point of view, the plan reduces intra-manufacturer politics. No more debates about who gets the good engine, but raises the stakes for those whose riding style currently masks bike weaknesses. Ducati frames the decision as forward-looking. By squeezing performance from the GP25 and concentrating development spend, the factory can channel talent and cash into the 2027 project, the Rio Battleground. The company believes this approach buys both short-term competitiveness and long-term readiness. As contracts reopen next season, the new single-spec policy could reshape negotiations and rider market dynamics across the paddock. Standardizing on the Desmosedici GP25 is a calculated gamble. Reduce complexity now to be sharper in 2027. It hands Marquez an even clearer benchmark, gives previously disadvantaged teammates the same hardware, and lets Ducati focus resources on the coming rule revolution. If Ducati's engineers and riders align, the one-bike strategy could cement Borgo Panigale's dominance, or it could expose new limitations when the entire stable runs the same recipe. Either way, 2026 just got far more interesting. After 12 rounds, Marquez averages 31.75 points per GP from a possible 37, an extraordinary conversion rate. That consistency, combined with a 120-point cushion over Álex, gives him a runway to close out the title well before the calendar's finale. GPOne's projection notes that if Marquez keeps racking up roughly 31 to 32 points per weekend while his rivals fail to match him, the championship could be decided earlier than most expect. According to the scenario most pundits consider plausible, Marquez could secure his 9th world title at the Indonesian GP on October 5th, a realistic target if he maintains form and avoids DNFs. That timeline assumes Marquez extends his lead sufficiently across the next handful of rounds so rivals can no longer bridge the gap in the remaining races. The Misano clinch is far more speculative. For Marquez to wrap the crown there, 6 rounds before the season ends, a string of almost perfect weekends is required, plus serious misfortune or poor form from Álex and other chasers. GPOne calculates Marquez would need to outscore Álex by 103 points over the next 4 races to reach the magic lead, projected at 223 points under that scenario. That would make the title unassailable by Misano. Put bluntly, Marquez must keep winning or scoring near maximum points while Álex, and others behind him, must together have a run of non-scores or low returns. It's not impossible, but it's a near-perfect storm. MotoGP is mercilessly unpredictable. Tires, electronics, rain, crashes and a single technical glitch can erase a points lead in an instant. Marquez himself, experienced, focused, and famously unfazed by early celebrations, is reportedly concentrating only on riding and the next race. Even with dominating form, the prudent approach is to treat every race as decisive. Teams plan for contingencies precisely because numbers like these can evaporate overnight. There's a subtle game inside the numbers. A potential early title changes risk calculations. If Marquez gets close to clinching, rivals may take more desperate risks. Marquez's team may elect to manage tire life or engine life to protect long-term reliability. Those tactical shifts can either cement a fast-closing title bid or create new vulnerabilities. The pressure cooker intensifies as mathematically possible clinches draw near. Key variables to monitor across the coming rounds: Marquez's reliability, DNFs or technical alarms, Álex's ability to consistently bank podiums, and whether riders like Bagnaia, Bezzecchi, or the KTMs can sustain challenges that split up Ducati's points haul. If Marquez keeps scoring 30-plus points per weekend and his closest rivals have mixed fortunes, the math will keep creeping in his favor, and sudden talk of a Misano coronation will sound less crazy. Marc Márquez's dominance this season has turned a remote possibility into a headline, an early title at Misano. It remains, however, an edge case that depends on near-perfect performances from number 93 and a sustained collapse from his rivals. For now, Marquez, true to form, is keeping his head down, riding each lap as it comes. The numbers tease a historic early celebration. MotoGP's chaos still reserves the right to prove them wrong. Bagnaia's complaints are specific and worrying for a rider who previously excelled at making the bike stable under braking. Since Thailand, he's been struggling to stop the GP25 the way he wants. If he brakes hard, he either gets past on the straight or trips wide, and if he eases off, he can't turn in properly. I've been complaining about braking and corner entry problems for a while now, since Thailand. I'm one of the worst. Everyone overtakes me in braking. I can't brake hard. Bagnaia statement. That limbo, Bagnaia describes, too hard to stop, too gentle to turn, is a technical headache that sits at the intersection of chassis balance, front-end feel, engine braking and tire behavior. The immediate consequence is defensive fragility. Where Bagnaia once prided himself on making rivals go wide when attempting overtakes, he now finds himself the one being swallowed up in braking zones. That reality has translated into lost positions during races and reduced margin for error. Bagnaia has only one win so far in 2025 and says the bike's front-end characteristic is not aligned with his preferred style, a tough truth for a rider accustomed to being the hunter rather than the hunted. Marc Márquez is well clear at the top, and Bagnaia's immediate target is Álex Márquez, currently 48 points ahead in second place during the summer break. With 10 race weekends remaining, Bagnaia acknowledges that the title fight is no longer realistic unless both his form and the bike's behavior change dramatically. We started out to win the championship, but right now, we have to be realistic. It's difficult to think about fighting against Marc in this condition. So we have to start from another point, try to catch up with Álex. The strategy shift is clear: consolidate, score consistently, close to Álex first, then aim to rebuild for next year. Bagnaia points to the bike's DNA, the GP25's fundamental balance, as a possible root cause. When the machine's baseline geometry and electronics don't match a rider's braking technique, iterative setup changes can only go so far. Engineers can tweak suspension, braking maps and aero, but when a rider says the bike's character feels off up front, it often requires deeper development work. I really think the DNA of this bike isn't 100% suited to my request up front. We're trying everything, and nothing's helping us improve that area. That admission makes Ducati's workload heavier. The fix may require parts, mappings and setup philosophies that take time to validate on track. Bagnaia's tone is pragmatic rather than defeated. He's calling for perseverance from both rider and team, more data, more testing, and possibly a reshaped approach to setup, with an eye on being in the strongest position for 2026 and the 2027 regulation changes. 10 rounds remain to salvage the year. For Bagnaia, success next half of the season will be measured not only in podiums but in restoring defensive competence and confidence under braking. Pecco Bagnaia's honesty is telling. A rider who once made overtakers fail now admits he's vulnerable where it matters most. Ducati faces a twofold challenge: find quick, race-relevant remedies to stop the slide, while planning the deeper fixes that the GP25's DNA might demand. If they can't, Bagnaia's priority will shift to salvaging pride, points and momentum heading into a crucial off-season for development. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!